All right, so welcome to Google Club meeting number 4 for this fiscal year. Today we are going to be looking at Google Sheets and Google Forms. I tend to look at them together because Google Forms are a great way to get data that you can look at in your Sheets, depending on the kinds of needs you have. And this is the reason we call this Google Club, is the idea that, this is an opportunity for everyone here to share anything that you have been doing with these tools. I'm going to start us off kind of at the beginning, and I know for some folks that's going to be, you've already done the beginning, but you're welcome to share how you're using these tools when we're discussing them. And then for those of you who are new, I'll try not to go too fast, but like you said, you'll have access to this recording and a lot of other resources at the end of the slides if you want more practice or more how-tos. So again, let me put the slides in the chat in case anyone new just dropped in. And just a little bit more about Google Club. We've been meeting, this is actually our 4th year, and I know some of you have been coming the whole time, and some of you are, like I said, totally new today. And the idea of Google Club is a way to explore how Google tools can be used to help us in adult education. And we look at Google particularly because we feel like it's an inexpensive way to get a lot of access to a lot of tools. And we look at it both for you as a person in an adult ed program, whether you're a teacher or an administrator, but we also look at how maybe we can turn this and use it with students as well. So as I said, this year the theme, every year we've kind of had a theme. This year the theme is digital resilience. And digital resilience, I'll get into that actually. We have a slide for that. So let's just move through these first few. So you all know that you can access DYCD Connect to see announcements, find out about other workshops. As we're going to be covering Google Sheets and Google Forms today, by the end of the session, you should at least be able to create both of them, know where they are, and know how to create a new one. And then with Google Sheets, our big exciting news is conditional formatting. So maybe you're already using it and you can tell us how you're using it, but we'll definitely get to how to do it and then think about how we can use it in our work. Google Club meets monthly. The next few meetings are here. Once you get these slides, you can always register from here. I usually send out a reminder a week or two before the next session. So the next meeting will be in January of 2026, and we'll be looking at being safe and secure online. Then on February 18th, we'll be looking at using a variety of tools, kind of productivity tools, just to keep yourself organized. Then in March, we'll be looking at ways to continue our learning. And then on the 22nd of April, which is a little off schedule just because of other things going on, we'll be talking about, again, productivity and specifically how the Google AIs, and there's lots of different generative AI tools that are coming out of Google, how they can be used. And then the last one will be coming back. Hopefully you all will have, or some of you will be willing to share some of the work that you've done this year. So there'll be an opportunity to do, we call it a show and tell. So you get to sign up and tell us a little bit about what you've been doing this year. All right, so we're going to go through Google Forms and then we're going to go through Google Sheets. I do it in that order because, as I mentioned, Forms, you don't have to look at Google Sheets to use Forms, but one way to look at the data that you get from a Google form is to create a Google Sheet. And so that's why I think they go so well together. We have a whole folder of content, and you'll see some of the practice materials I have today. And again, I'll share this link with you in the email that I send you later today. And at any point, feel free to ask questions. You can put them in the chat. I'll keep an eye on the chat, and you can also raise your hand and unmute. And there's no bad questions, no stupid questions. Everything is, if you're wondering, I'm sure there are 15 other people who are wondering too. So as I mentioned, digital resilience is the overarching theme for this year's Google Club. And the idea of digital resilience is beyond just the explicit digital skills that we think are important, right? So if we think that it's important to know how to send an email, that is a digital skill, right? There's a bunch of skills actually that go into that. So how do you find Gmail or whatever tool you're going to use? How do you type into that? How do you find an address? What does an email address look like? There's a lot of things built into just a simple thing like sending an email. In digital resilience, we would extend that to talk a little bit about how you can use the knowledge you already have to help you when you face future problems or when things change. So what we know about the one thing we know about digital tools is that they change and they don't always work. Those are two things we know. So what we want for ourselves and for our learners is to build our sense of ability to overcome those obstacles. So that the definition here is the awareness, skills, agility, and confidence to be empowered users of new technologies and adapt to changing digital skill demands. And this is as true for your learners as it is for you. So we all, as we work with digital tools, have to notice in ourselves when we are feeling success and we are happy that we were able to do something using a digital tool and it worked the way we wanted it to, eventually at least. And we also want to notice when we hit walls and we are completely frustrated and have some tools to get us back on track. So we know this is true with every kind of learning. You hit walls. And so how do we kind of bring ourselves back from those times? And you know yourself well, you know what you feel comfortable with, what you don't, and what we're asking us is to kind of extend a little bit. And when we think about taking this into the classroom, it really does mean not just practicing the digital skills alone, but using them in an applied way, solving problems, thinking up what are real life problems and how can these digital tools actually help us with solving those things or living a better life. So that's our overarching thing. Today, we're focusing on data by looking at these two tools, forms, which help us gather data, sheets, which help us sort data and visualize data. If you're familiar with Sheets, it's like Excel. And to me, Excel and Sheets are probably two of the deeper tools where any of us, if you were to ask us if we know how to use them, we might say we do, but we probably know different things. So I am not a power user by any means. I can do the things I need to do using both Excel and Form or Sheets. But I have some things I'm going to share with you. And again, as I said, and I'll say again, if you guys are doing things with these tools, that is really helpful for us to learn about. Because what I think, again, with Sheets and Excel particularly, maybe more than any other tool, it's not so much that you need to know how to do everything in using those tools, but you need to know at least that they can be done. Because then you can go and Google and get help, or you can go to YouTube and get help, or you can go to Reddit and get help. But if you can't imagine that it's possible, or if you can't verbalize or come up with a description of what it is you want to do, then you can't get that help. So I had an experience the other day where I have a really long spreadsheet. I have maybe, I don't know, 15 different organizations. So it's showing me people from these 15 different organizations. And I didn't want it in a single sheet anymore. I wanted it to be divided up by the organization. So I wanted 15 tabs across the bottom of my spreadsheet, and I wanted the data from each of the agency groupings to go magically to those different tabs. And I figured out how. But it's because I could imagine that that was possible, and then I could go and Google it and find a video, and I had to look at two. The second video was very helpful, and I succeeded. So now I have this amazing spreadsheet that I could have done it manually, but it would have taken a long time, and human error would have been part of the calculation there. Where having, writing a little bit of code, putting it in there, trying it out, it could have not worked, but I was willing to try it, and I got this wonderful outcome from that. So that's kind of this building of the digital resilience that we're talking about. And like I said, especially with Google, with Excel and with Sheets, where I know there are power users out there, and maybe some of you are those people, but most people are going to know exactly the 5, 10, 15 things they need to know how to do, and then the other stuff is mysterious and whatever. But just know there could be possibilities there. Okay, we're going to start off by taking a quiz. So you can experience the joy and the magic of a self-scoring Google form. So this is made in Google Forms, but it's going to act like a quiz in that there are right and wrong answers, and the form is going to tell you at the end what you got right and what you got wrong. So scan that QR code. I'm also going to put the link in the chat so you can take it on your computer or your device also. If you're on a phone, you probably don't want to, you're not able to scan. So let me go to the chat for a second. So this is our Google vocabulary quiz. So you can either click on in the chat, there's a link now, or you can scan this QR code. It is very mobile friendly. That's another bonus of Google Forms. You design it one way and it looks fine on a computer screen, but it also changes into a more of a portrait version for your phone. So it is a great resource for you as a teacher to use with your learners if they're mostly on their phones and you want to send them quizzes or surveys. So go ahead and do that. I'm going to open it up while you're doing it so we can see what's going on. Actually, it's in our folder. I already have one response in there, so I can quickly see responses. Oh, 2 responses. Fantastic. And if you need me to show you the QR code again, just let me know. Oh, we got 4 responses now. This is fantastic. And this is how I've seen some programs use Google Forms. It's like a beginning activity to review maybe some work that you've done before or to get you started on the work we're going to do today. And as we go over the answers, that could be part of the lesson, right? That we're going to kind of have got your minds already thinking about like, I don't know the answer to that question. And so when we talk about it, you'll be ready. You'll have a space for it in your brain already. And we're going to use this example to look at how you can create your own self-scoring quiz. So once you submit your answers, you should have gotten a little message that says you can see the answers, and that will tell you what answers were right or wrong. All right, we're up to
I'm
9.
confused.
Say that again, Lennis.
I'm confused.
You're confused by the question?
Yes.
By the
Yeah.
question? Well, we're gonna look at the questions together. So maybe we'll unconfuse you then.
Okay.
Okay.
Then.
So if you just wait a few
Okay.
minutes, we'll see if we do. And if we don't, you ask your questions again. Yay! Camille says she's completed. All right, so we're at 9. I'm going to go ahead and start looking at the answers. But if you're still in the middle of doing your quiz, keep going. So if I ask, we'll come back to how do you get to forms in a moment. We're going to look at what happens when people respond to your forms. So Google Forms have 2 different views. The view we're seeing right now that you're seeing with me is, we're going to call it the back end. So just like with Google Slides, where the person creating Google Slides gets to see, or people who are creating the slides get to see the slides down the side, and you get to go in and edit the slides. That's kind of the back end. The back end is where we, the creators, do our work. Then we have the front end, and the front end is what the responder sees. They don't see all of this other stuff. They only see what the questions are and what the answers are, right? So the back end of Google Forms, you're in the back end because you do see questions, responses, settings. You see all of these different little icons along the top. You see the title of it up here. When you see it as you saw it, let's go back to our slides. If I was to click on it from here, this is what the front end view looks like. So it's similar, but as I said, you don't get to see any of that other control stuff around it. So that's one thing to be clear on, right? Are you in the back end? Are you in the front end? This is what we're going to call the front end. It's what you saw when you were taking the quiz. And This is what I see when I'm making the quiz. I see all of this other stuff up here. So we start off with our questions, right? And the questions were month that you were born in, um, and then there was a series of images and we were asking you what they were called, right? So let's go look at the responses. So what's nice is that it will give me a very quick overview of how you did. First of all, I know how many people are born in each month. We got a good, nice spread here. Um, and we can see a couple of people struggled, right? So this would very quickly tell me if there's an area that we really need to concentrate on, right? If I saw that there's a lot of struggle, if there's a little bit of struggle, which I love, ice cream cone is a great answer for all the questions, then we can, have a different discussion. So this is an overview. I can also go in and look at individual answers here, but I don't find, personally, that's not what I do that's not where I spend a lot of my time, right? What I like to do is up here, we have this thing that says link to sheets. So this is what I meant about Google Forms and Google Sheets working really well together. So when I've created a quiz, I can, or a survey, I can go here and click on link to sheets. I have the option of connecting to an existing sheet. So maybe you have an ongoing document that you want to connect this with. Generally, for me, that's not true. I'm just going to go ahead and create a new spreadsheet. And it's going to have the same name as the quiz, but it's going to be in sheets. So I'm going to have two documents. One is a form, one is sheets. They're going to have the same name. I'm going to go ahead and click create. And now it's going to open the sheets. So the sheets give me a very quick view. So we said in the forms it gives us a quick view, but in kind of bar charts and things like that. Here it's much easier for me to go through and find specific information or understand what's going on. And this might not even be the best answer. Usually the spreadsheet is really helpful if you're looking for all the people that said they wanted pizza. You could sort it by who wants pizza or something like that. So depending on what the questions are. So let's go back and look at the quiz just to get the answers. So obviously no right or wrong answer. Whatever month you're born is fantastic. What is the answer to number 2? It looked like a lot of you guys got this right, if I look back at our spreadsheet. So a lot of people said waffle, and one person said ice cream cone. And it is indeed the waffle. So the waffle, if we're looking at my Chrome, so right now I'm in Chrome as a browser. And when I was back in our slides, do I see my waffle? Yes, I don't see the waffle. If I go to my drive, yes. So when I'm looking at my drive, I have this little symbol over here, right? That is a series of 9 little squares. And they can either be all gray like this one is, or it could be all the colors of Google. And what that is an app launcher. So we call it a waffle because it looks a bit like a waffle. And one of the other things about digital literacy is being able to describe and use terms that other people will recognize. So you don't have to call it the waffle, but if you called it the waffle, people will know what you mean. And if you call it the app launcher, they'll know what you mean. So you want to be able to use one or two of those terms. And when we click on the app launcher, it shows us all of the apps in Google. So by having a Google account, you automatically have all of this. You just have to go in and play with it if you've never played with it. And in the app launcher, you can also rearrange things. So say you are a teacher who uses Google Classroom, you might want Google Classroom up here at the very top, not so you don't have to scroll down. But if you don't use Google Classroom, you can move it all the way down. And you just do that by left clicking and dragging, and it will resort where everything is. So that is what the waffle is. The waffle is the app launcher. It's either going to be 9 little grayed out squares, or it's going to be those colorful squares. This symbol you've probably seen outside of Google. It's used all over the place, right? We can see 3 dots here. I got 3 dots over here. When we were looking at the form to make the form, let's find that. There's 3 dots there. If I go back to the questions, there are Are there 3 dots anywhere here? Yep, 3 dots there. Lots of 3 dots. What does 3 dots mean? When you see 3 dots, what do you think is going to happen?
More information.
More information, exactly. So we call it a skinny snowman because 3 dots is kind of hard to say. But you can say 3 dots. So 3 dots, skinny snowman. Sometimes it is called more. As you see when you scroll over this one, they call it more. Basically, we know we're going to get more options when we click on it, but we do call it the skinny snowman. So that was the skinny snowman in our quiz, right? So we had our skinny snowman, waffle, ice cream cone, or breadcrumb trail, and this is our skinny snowman. So far we've had our waffle and our skinny snowman. Now we are on question 3 or 4, I guess it was, which is this image. And the question is, what is this? Is it skinny snowman, waffle, ice cream cone, or breadcrumb trail? And we're getting to a place where just by default, you can guess that it's not going to be skinny snowman or waffle. So is it ice cream cone or breadcrumb trail is the question. And I want to look at this one because this one might be the one that maybe had no, a lot of you had that one too. That's great. So breadcrumb trail, does anyone know the name of a story that has a breadcrumb trail in it? Where does this idea of a breadcrumb trail come from? Because it's cultural, so some people don't know this story.
Hansel and Gretel.
Hansel and Gretel, exactly. Thanks, so Marie. So yes, Hansel and Gretel is a story that many people in Western Europe and the United States might know, where we had 2 children and they were running away from home and they were making a trail behind them by carrying breadcrumbs so they could get back home. That's the key. It's a trail
Mm.
behind you so you can get back to where you were. So when we're looking at a folder, so if here I am, I'm looking at this is my Google Drive, and I'm in this folder. So today's folder, right? This is today's date, Google Club. This is where I am. It's the furthest to the right. But as I go backwards, I get all the way back either to shared with me or home. So this is how I can see that this folder is inside this folder is inside this folder. So we call it a breadcrumb trail because it goes backwards and it takes us back home if we want to use it. This shows up when you're looking at folders in your drive. That's primarily where I see it, but it does show up in some other things as well. So and it's important to notice because it really can help you move around more easily inside your drive. It can also, if you look at the breadcrumb trail and you right click on it, you get some options where you could share it, you can organize it and things like that. So the breadcrumb trail is valuable to us for its efficiency. Um, and it fits into our kind of food theme in this quiz. All right, so that was breadcrumb trail. And then the last one was ice cream cone, and that was just for fun. Um, so, so I'm sorry if it confused you, but the idea here is that this is all vocabulary that we use, that we should be familiar with, and you learned it now if you didn't know it before. So well done. Um, the reason I asked you what month you were born in, I wanted to go ahead and thank you. See in the chat that Camille mentioned Hansel and Gretel. Thank you for that. If we're looking at the data here, I didn't ask your name, right? So this was an anonymous quiz. It doesn't have any real meaning. I could have asked your name and you could have written your name in there and I could have sorted it alphabetically. One of the things you'll see here is that this has actually been made into a table. So if we go back to our folder, I'll come back to our attendance in a moment. Okay. Sheets has changed quite a lot because we have all this new AI stuff in there and it has new ideas of what you might want to do with your data. So I was saying that this is a table and I can tell that because I actually have the ability to sort really easily here by just clicking on one of these things. So I could sort by the timestamp, which is actually how it's already sorted. If I wanted to sort it by score, I could do that. But if I want to select the month that you were born in, I would come up here and I would sort is it going to let me do the whole thing? Let's see what happens. Yes. So now it's sorted alphabetically by the date, right? Or I could do it some other way, but that can be helpful if you want to sort alphabetically, if this is a list of students' names, and that's just built in once you make it into a table. Okay, so we're back to our forms. I want to look at our slides for a second to make sure I'm keeping us on track. So this first section of slides is really about forms. And one of the things with Google, as I mentioned, the reason we think Google is a valuable tool for us in adult education is that it is accessible for free, right? Microsoft, you have to pay for the software. You may have it at your program, but if a student comes in and uses it at your program and then leaves, they might not have access to it on the computer they use at home or in the library or whatever. Where Google stays with you, right? You log into your Chrome, you log into your Google Drive, and you have access to all of the things you've created there no matter what device you're on. So on your phone, on your friend's computer, on a Chromebook, on your tablet, on your uh, computer at school, whatever you have options. So um, to create content, to be the one who makes the form, to make the quiz, I need to have signed into my Google account. But you guys, when you were taking the quiz, did not need to be signed in to take the quiz. So that's an important thing to know, right? That you don't have to have a Google account to respond to a quiz that's been made by somebody else. So this was something that came up for me today, just to kind of keep us aware of the fact that in Google, when we're sharing things, right? If I want you, so say we're looking at this quiz, right? I want to share this with you so you can take the quiz. How would I do that? How do I get the share link? Because it used to say send. There used to be a big box here that said send, and that's gone away now. It was always a little confusing anyway.
More
Yes,
information.
say that again.
More information. The skin
Over
is
here, little
snowman.
three dots, okay.
Mm-mm.
No. So
Mm.
let's look at these little icons. We haven't spent any time up here. So this is actually
Oh,
an add-on. We don't need that.
share
There you go. So we
the
have two
plus sign
different,
with the person. Okay, yeah.
yeah. So we have two different ones. We have share, which is the little person in the plus sign. That again, universal inside Google, little person with a plus sign means you're going to be able to share. Plus sign often means more, but when there's a person next to it, it means share. So, and you can see as I scrolled over it, it told you what these things were. So we have this share, which when I click on it, it gives me the same share pop-up screen we see with most Google tools, right? We have two different ways that we can share. We can share individually to people if we know their Google account, their Gmail email address. Or we can do general access, which is what I end up doing a lot when I'm working with you guys, because I'm not sending this to you to your Google account. I don't necessarily know your Google account. Instead, I'm coming here and I'm grabbing this responder link and then I'm pasting that into my slides or pasting it into the chat in Zoom. So there are two different general accesses. This is new. Again, if you've done Google Forms in the past, in the last year or two, this has now changed a little bit. So they have two different general accesses. One is about responders. You guys were the responders today, right? You were answering the questions. But you might want to collaborate with somebody so that maybe you and your colleague are working on this together, you and another teacher, or you and a program manager, or you and your staff are working together on a form, and you want to all be able to edit it, not just respond to it. That's what the editor view is. I still find this not to be very useful or easy to do. So I tend to grab the responder link from here. But if I want to share this collaboratively with a colleague, I create a folder. I put the form in the folder and I give my colleague access to edit the folder, and then they can edit the forms. You can try doing it this way. So if you were trying to make a collaborative link, you would come up to here where it says viewer, change it to editor. And then I still don't quite know how I get you that link. So I throw up my hands a little bit with their particular way that they think this works. Um, so in general, I come here to get the responder link, which is what this link will be. But there's another cool thing up here. So we have another way that we can get a link, and that is this. So this says copy responder link. If I click on that, the bonus of this way is I can make it short. And it doesn't really matter. It's still too long for anyone to type in, but it's a little less ugly, right? So if I copy that, you'll see that that's what I had in my slides today. Right? You guys had the short link, so it wasn't so long. And then what is this thing over here?
QR code.
QR code. And how did I make a QR code?
QR code generator or
Yes. Do you have one that you love?
I just Google it and find it.
Google it and find it. Fantastic. So notice there's a little dinosaur there. Does that give you a hint to where I might have made this? Where have you seen that little dinosaur before?
Is it Google generated also?
It is Google generated. So this little dinosaur, if you ever lose the internet or you lose signal on your phone and you go to Chrome and open it up, you'll see a little dinosaur, and it's actually a game. The dinosaur will run along and jump over rocks, but it means you have no internet. So that little symbol tells me that this is Google. It doesn't really matter, but I wanted to show you very quickly how I made that QR code because it's a very fast way to make QR codes. So I don't want to share this version, right? I want to share whatever this link takes us to, which is this version, right? So I want to make sure that I have on my screen the responder view, the front end. So that's step one. So exactly where I want you all to go, that's what I want to see on my screen. And then I'm going to go up to those three dots, the skinny snowman up here. And when I scroll down, about the fifth item from the bottom, it says cast, save, and share. And as I scroll over that, it pops out another menu. And as I scroll down, it says create QR code.
Okay.
And now I can copy that and I can paste it in my slides or on a document or whatever. So any website that you go to in Chrome, you can use this method to make a QR code to get there. But again, it has to be, if you use this QR code to get people to this view of your quiz, that would be bad. They'd be seeing the back end of your data, and I don't even know if they would let them in there. So you want to make sure that you are connecting to the right view, and that's exactly what I did. So that's how you got the two things on this slide, right? I have this link and I have this QR code. If you're working with learners where they are on Zoom with you via a phone, I wouldn't use QR codes because I would just give them the links in the chat, or I would have another way to have the links in their hands. The QR code would not be friendly because they couldn't take a picture of it because they're on their phone. The QR code is valuable when you maybe put it up on the wall in your classroom and you want everyone to scan it, and then they all get to the same place at the same time. But it's very much mobile oriented. So whatever you're going to get them to, you want to make sure that it's mobile friendly. It looks good on a small screen. I just recently was in a restaurant that didn't have any menus. You had to scan the QR code, and the menu was tiny. And I'm like, you people, you would design this to be something that I would actually use. Why not make the menu big? So it's one of my particular issues that we don't want to send people via QR code to things that are not fun on a phone. So don't do that. Okay, so that was helping us figure out how we get there. So these are the three different kinds of links. This link is the link to the document. So if I was to go here, this link up here is what that first link is. The second link is the link that you get when you do the regular share. So when we were looking at this quiz and oops, sorry, not that quiz, this one, and we said share like this one, when I copy the responder link, that's what you end up with, like this. So we don't just grab it from up here. That's, I think, what I wanted to point out. I know some people, when they make a quiz, they would come here, they would just grab the link from the top, and that often doesn't work. I'm not going to say 100% it doesn't work, but most of the time it might not work. So you want to make sure you're doing it through these two options. And then that last one is the shortened one, which I just showed you how to make. So again, if I was having people type this in, this is still too long and hard for people to type in. I would either go to a shortener, a URL shortener like tinyurl or bit.ly or something like that to make this into a link that's easier to type in. But most of the time we can either use a QR code or we can email or message or put in the chat the link, and then people can get to the link from there. So if I ask you, how do we get to Google Forms? Where are Google Forms? How would you go about creating your first Google form? So this is my first, I should have not shown you the screen yet. So this is a general rule for Google tools. You can get to most Google tools by knowing the name of the tool .google.com. So forms.google.com will take me to all of the Google Forms that I've ever created and some templates. If I was to go to sheets.google.com, I'd get to all the sheets I've ever created and some templates. It works for all the tools I know of. The tricky parts are, for example, mail. Instead of Gmail, it's just mail, mail.google.com. But contacts.google.com, calendar.google.com, all of those work that way. So that is one way to get to any of these tools. Another way is if I'm in my Drive. So I happen to be someone that when I come in to work in the morning, I open up my browser and I use Chrome, and I have it set up to open 5 tabs every day, same tabs to start me off. And the first tab is my Drive. So my Drive is always open. So it's actually the most efficient for me to go to my Drive, and then where here can I get to my forms or to make a new form?
The waffle.
So yes, absolutely. We have the waffle up here. As we mentioned, this will have all the tools in it. One thing that's really another digital skill to kind of really get good at is noticing these icons, because they make it much easier for you to move around. So I can read all these words, but if I know that forms are purple and I'm scrolling around, well, look, that's very easy to come to. So forms are purple. The little picture looks a bit like a checkbox list, right? Or a bullet list. So those are your forms. That's one way you can do it. So we talked about the waffle already. We've talked about forms.google.com. Is there another way here that we could get to forms? If I want to make a new form, I'm going to start scrolling over here to the word new. So new, again, this is a Google thing. Plus signs, as I said, if it's a plus sign with a person, it means share, but a plus sign in general usually means make or create. So if I click on this button, I see a bunch of different things I can make. I can make a new folder. I can upload a file from my computer. I can upload a folder from my computer. But here are all the main tools they think that we want to use. So we have our docs, our sheets, our slides, vids, which is new, right? Videos, and then Google Forms. And then there are even a few more things. So if you scroll over more, there's even a few more things here, right? But Google Forms has actually been moved up. It used to be in the more, and now it's up here. So doesn't matter which way you do it. You could do it from here, you can do it from here, or you could type in forms.google.com and get to a form that way. When we talk about using Google tools, one of my goals is always to be as efficient as I can be, and that's why there's no 100% one way to do anything. It has to work for you, but look at the way you do things and see if there's maybe a way to cut out at least one level of clicking. For example, I know some people, if I asked you to log into your Drive, you might start off by logging into your Gmail, and that's not necessary. You can just go to drive.google.com and then log in right there. So that's our goal, is to be more and more efficient. And one of the efficiencies I like to do is if I'm making a form that's going to sit inside a folder, I make the folder first, or I find the folder. So say I found this folder for MTA, which is not a useful folder for us right now, but we're going to pretend it is. When this is open, if I go up here and make a form, or I go to new and I make a form, it will make the form inside this folder. So it's just one step less work later on where you might forget to put it in a folder or whatever. So this is partly the way we organize our drive, is to have folders, and we know what's going, what the name of the folder is easier than remembering all the different things. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and use the fancy version. Let's get out of this one. We'll go into our I'm going to go to our folder for today. So now you're going to see how I have to click around inside 15 different things. You'll notice in my drive, I have colorful folders. So you can change the color of your folder. You cannot change the color of a document. So we talked about forms being purple. They are always purple. And slides are always yellow. And sheets are always green. But my folders can be a variety of colors. So if I look at this one and I right click on it under organize, I can make them any of these colors. And I'm someone, for me, color helps. I'm very quick to pick up on a color. So I do use colors quite often. Other people, that's not what they see at all. So we have colored here, and then you'll see that I also put the number 1 in the name of these folders. And I did that because that keeps them at the top. So a number will always go above A, letter A. So you see here I have, for example, where I am right now is I want to go to PDU, and PDU would be very, very far down alphabetically. I have a lot of stuff in my drive. So to get to P would take a lot of scrolling, or I'd have to search for it, kind of knowing exactly what it's called up here in the drive, up in the search up here. So instead, the things that I work with almost on a daily basis, I put a number 1 in front of the name, and that way they stay towards the top. Another way to do that is to use the starred tool here. If you want, starred is like favorited. And if you were a really efficient and good person, you would be able to put things in starred and then go there and be able to find everything you need to see. What did I do? I put a bunch of stuff in starred and I never took it out. So my starred folder is a mess. So I can't use it. I have to use my particular method of numbering things. One day I'll come in here and sort it out. But in the meantime, so that's what they designed this to work for. The idea is you would put something in starred and then you could take it back out. For me, I have to do it my tricky way with numbers, and I'm going to get us back to our folder. And today we are in, let's see, Google Club. So you see I'm a folder and folder inside folder person. And this is our today session. Okay, so if I was going to make a new folder, a new form, I'm going to go up to new, and I'm going to click on Google Forms, and it's going to say you want to create it in this shared folder. So this folder is shared because I shared it with you guys, or it will be shared with you and with myself. Now, AI is everywhere. So at the very beginning of making a new form, you're given this option. If you know that the form you want to create is something pretty basic, like a registration form for an ESL class taking place on Tuesdays in January, you write all of that in there, it'll make you a form. If you wanted to make a, let's try it out. So I'm going to say, create a registration form for our holiday party. People need to choose if they want cake or ice cream. All right, let's see what happens. So now I'm going to hit create. There are 2 different kinds of Google accounts. This is my personal Google account, and it has all of this AI built into it. Then I have a work Google account that is done through a Google Workspace, and it doesn't have as much AI in it. So this might not happen for you depending on what account you're logging into. Okay, so this is what it's suggesting. Full name, email address, department or team. I don't really need that. Will you be attending the party? Yes. Ooh, but cake and ice cream are there, right? That was my one question. Dietary restrictions, I don't really care. How excited are you? That's a good question, right? So if I like it, I can say create a form, and I can still go back and edit it. If it's completely wrong, or I really want to try and help generative AI understand me better, I could come up here and I could say, take out the thing about dietary restrictions, add something about your favorite color, whatever. But I'm good with this. It's giving me the beginning. So I'm going to go ahead and say create form. And there's my form. So it's already taken a lot of work out of my hands. Something I wanted to point out. Let's see, do I have it in my slides here? Yes. I'm going to go into slideshow mode to show this. Okay. We have here 4 different Google tools. What do you notice is similar about them? And which tools are they? Maybe that's the first question. So what's this first one? Can anyone tell me? Can you guess what this is? Which Google tool?
Google Slides.
Slides, exactly. So this is Google Slides, fantastic. So we have a title, we have a space in here that we can edit. What about this one down here? Can anyone guess what type of, where this is coming from? What kind of
Google Sheets.
Google Sheets, right? So this is like a cell in a Google Sheet. How about this one up here?
Google Form.
Yeah, so we haven't looked at it yet, but this is what Google Forms looks like. And then this one down here, this one might be the hardest.
Mm-hmm.
So this one is from Google Sites. So if you make a website using Google, this is what it looks like when you're editing content inside your website. What do you notice about all 4 of these images? What do they have in common?
The blue?
The blue, exactly. Thank you, Glenna. So the blue tells us what we're editing. And this comes up a lot because when you use Google Slides, if you ever do use Google Slides or you're teaching it to people, people get confused about what's being edited and they don't notice the blue line. If you notice the blue line, you're always going to know where you are. So the same in Sheets, whatever cell you're editing is going to be outlined in blue. Whatever question you're working on inside your form is going to have this blue line down the side. And whatever you're editing on a website page is going to have this blue line around it. And there's some other things here, right? We know we can maybe make these things bigger or smaller, and that in Sheets, it's like Excel, we can drag and move things around. But the first thing to notice is that there is this blue line rule in Google. So that is it. This is a digital resilience moment, right? You know one of these things, you know all of these things. You've never even made a Google site, but you know already now if you go to Google Sites, you can guess that if you see blue lines, that might be where you're editing. So noticing these consistencies across the tools shows you already know a lot, right? You're not coming into it completely. You feel like you've never done it before, but actually when you get there, you're like, oh, this is similar to whatever. So that's why I wanted to point that out. So well done for knowing what all these are. In the slides, you'll see on the next slide, I did go ahead and label them all for you in case they're new for you. And I made a big blue outline on the outside there. So I wanted to do that before we get into our quiz because we see here, right? We have a blue line here that tells me I'm editing this piece. This is the header, right? This is the title of the form. This is our full name. Now, let's see, do we have a couple of things in the chat? All right. So when we're looking at our forms, we have a couple of tool boxes or toolbars around. We have these things at the top we saw earlier, right? So we know we can share from these two. We can see we have a back arrow, front arrow. So if you make a mistake, you can undo. We have preview, so you can see what the form looks like from the responders take. We can actually change the color and we can add a header. If you noticed with our quiz today, we had a header, right? And it changed the color of the form. So we can do that. And we can get more AI help if we want to. And there are add-ons, but we're not going to deal with add-ons today. We also have this toolbar. So the plus sign, what do we know about plus signs in Google? It's going to make something new. It's going to make a
More.
new, right? So I'm going to guess this means add question. It's going to make a new question for us. And it's going to always make a question after whatever you are in right now. You can still move questions around after you've made them, but just know that if you're down here in this question and you click the plus sign, the next question is going to come under here. It's always going to come after whatever you're editing, which is why it's so important to know what you're editing.
Okay.
So we have the make a new question or add a question. We have import questions. So say you had made questions somewhere else, you could import them in here and they would automatically be in the system for you. You can change the title and the description or add a title and a description. You can add an image. So the quiz you guys took today had images, right? You can imagine using this with low-level ESL learners. It doesn't have to be a lot of reading. It could be an image and a vocabulary word. What's this symbol? It tells you if I scroll over it. That's why I'm being cheap. So it says add a video. Where have you seen this symbol before? It's very specific.
YouTube.
YouTube, exactly. Why is YouTube such a easy to use thing in Google?
Same company.
Same company, exactly. So one of my if we were all in a room together, one of the questions I love to ask people is like, does everyone, who here doesn't have a Google account? And generally everybody in the room has a Google account. And then I say, how many of you have a YouTube account? And half the people will think they don't have a YouTube account. You automatically have a YouTube account if you have a Google account. You've just never logged in, but it's there waiting for you. So yes, they've made it very easy to bring YouTube into here. So you could have a video in your form and then ask questions right after it. And then we can have sections, and sections are particularly useful. So sections break it into smaller chunks. So it's not just one giant long questionnaire or quiz. You can have it in pieces. You could name the different pieces, maybe to let people know they're moving from one piece to another. But you also can create what they call branching questions. So say you have the first question here is, are you a teacher or an administrator? And if you're a teacher, we need to know what class you would have been teaching during this time so we can get a substitute for you. That would lead us to what we call branching questions. So if you say, yes, you're a teacher, then you're going to see a different question next than if you said, yes, I'm an administrator, and then you're going to see a different question. And that's done by creating sections. So basically you have to create the sections first, and then you have the option of, depending on the answer, going to different sections. So that can get quite sophisticated depending on the kinds of information that you're trying to get. All right, so we are happy with the full name. We're happy with the email address. So once I'm in a question, I also get to decide what kinds of questions I want to use. This is my list of questions. Short answer and paragraph. What is the difference between a short answer question and a paragraph answer question? Visually, or why would you choose one or the other? What kinds of questions would be good examples?
Short answer, perhaps a yes or no answer.
So yes or
Correct.
no, we might be doing as check boxes, right? So here you can see they've suggested for full name, that's a short answer.
Right.
And for email address, that's a short answer. Do you think short answers have a limited number of letters in them or a size? These are two different sizes, right? Like a short answer is a different size than a paragraph answer. So if you remember back, maybe you have to do this now when you make quizzes. When I was in high school or junior high, you would have test questions that were multiple choice, and then you would get to a test question that was a paragraph or an essay question, right? So the difference here is I've never seen a limit on how much writing you can put in a short answer, but what the person can see is limited. So if you want people to write a lot, or like say you're asking them to give 5 examples, then the short answer, they're just going to see one line of text and they're going to have to keep scrolling up and down to see the other content. That's where I would give them the paragraph, because then they get a bigger box to see the content in. So that's the reason to choose between those, right? So full name, email address, date, those are all short answer. Name 5 cities you've been to. That could be a paragraph. Or name your top favorite vegetable recipes, right? Something with a little bit more writing in it. That would be a paragraph question. The next three options are multiple choice, checkboxes, and drop down. What's the difference between these three? Let's see if we have any examples here. So we have here, okay, this one is a multiple choice. So we have circles and we have two options. Can you click both options at the same time? Could you choose both?
No.
No. So multiple choice, only one choice. You can only make one choice. There's circles that tells you only check one. If you check another one, the first one will uncheck. So that's multiple choice. If we said in this one, for example, we could make this one into checkboxes, because what's true in adult ed, you could have be in many different departments, right? Or many different roles. So we could say here, check all that apply, right? And we can do that by coming down here and adding a description. Check all that apply. So we had the example of cake and ice cream. We don't want people picking both. They can only pick one. But if we wanted them to pick both or have the option to pick both, we would change it from this form with the circle to the square. And this is actually a rule that's bigger than Google. If you've taken any, I think I took the GRE, and the GRE is made up exactly like this, where if there's a square checkbox, that tells me I'm probably gonna have to choose more than one answer. And if there's a circle checkbox, there's only one answer. And those tests can be very tricky because you assume you know. We're all very bad at reading the directions, and so we don't always notice when it says choose the two best answers. But if you remember that squares tend to mean you can have more than one answer and circles mean there's only one answer, that can help with that. All right, so we have multiple choice, checkboxes, and drop down. Drop down acts kind of like multiple choice, right? You see a list, but you can only choose one answer, and then the list goes away. And this could be very useful when you're designing a form. For example, if you had listed every state, right? Like which state do you live in? And you have to choose one state. That takes up a lot of the space on your quiz. But if it's a drop down, it's only there for a moment. They make their choice and then it goes back into a small space. So depending on how many options you have, the drop down might be a good choice. The downside of the drop down, they can only see it when they click into it. So you have to decide when it's a good idea or not a good idea. File upload, this is very handy if you're making this into a registration form and maybe they have to upload proof of their identity or they have to write an essay or their photo or something like that. The file upload is handy and it will let them upload something and it will go into a Google folder and you can go there to find it all. Linear scale, rating, multiple choice grid, and checkbox grid, I don't use as much. If you're doing an evaluation form, these could be valuable, right? Like a linear scale is like between 1 and 5. Are you very happy or very unhappy? And then they can choose somewhere in between the two. People make mistakes on those quite often, though, and they'll not read and they'll give you all the wrong answer. Ratings, similarly, is it 5 stars, 2 stars, whatever. Multiple choice. In fact, I think that one's at the bottom. They did do, yeah. So this is the star one. And you could change which symbols you want there. So that's the rating one. These get very complicated because the data you get is very mixed up. So multiple choice grid, for example, if we were saying, when can you meet? And we have Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, 1 o'clock, and you could click all the boxes that are true. That seems great, but in reality, the data will show up in a single cell on your Google Sheets. And that is annoying to me. So I'd prefer, even if it's annoying to the responder, to have those broken out as individual. On Monday, which times can you meet? On Tuesday, which times can you meet? Then we have date and time. These also can be problematic. The date, we call it a mask, where it wants it to be, month, day, year. And if people get that wrong, like they type into it in the wrong space, it can make it impossible for them to fix it. So I tend not to do these. I will either use the date that comes automatically from when they took the quiz, or I would ask them to write it in here, but I would just make it a regular short answer question and not have these are going to add parameters to what the answers have to look like. And it tends to create some drama for people. So I tend not to use these either. All right. So we said that we liked our full name, email address, department or team. Will you be attending the party? Yes or no? Please choose your preferred dessert, cake or ice cream. Do you have any? I don't want this question, right? It's a perfectly nice question, but just as an example. So I know I'm editing it because I got the blue line here, and I'm going to click on the little trash can, and it's gone. Another thing we have down here, so we have trash can, we have required. So you have to decide which questions are required. These will, if people don't answer them, they cannot submit the form. And often you want to make things required because otherwise they won't, they could accidentally forget to answer a question. So you want to make it required, and you have to do that individually for each of them. We also have this little symbol, which means copy, duplicate, right? So if I have a question that's like this, maybe I have a question like this, right? So this is about dessert, but I want to do another question about pizza or hot dogs. It's a very similar question, so I'm just going to go ahead and duplicate, and here I can just change cake into hot dog and this one into pizza. So the rest of it's except the word dessert. We should get rid of that too. All right, and then, as I said, we can make it pretty. So we can go up here to the customize theme. So it is set up with this font. I'm fine with that. And then I can add a header. And you can go make your own headers in Canva. You can be all kinds of fancy, but they have a bunch of them in here, right? So they have them for parties. So for the sake of our party, I think we can just pick one from here. We'll go with the cupcake theme. And then we click insert. And it put that in, and it guessed, because those are our colors, that the whole form should be a different color. And it's going to give us all these options. We can also add our own colors if we want to. But basically, that's what happens. It updates the colors that way. And then we should always preview it, because sometimes we make mistakes. Often we make mistakes. So full name, I didn't make it required. I want it to be required. So I'm gonna have to go back and change that. Email address, I want that required. Okay, this is good. I want these to be multiple. And if I click other, you're right, it doesn't let me write one in. That's fine. Will you be attending the party? Yes. Please choose. So I'm gonna go ahead and answer all these questions. So I usually do a test run, and you can write garbage, right? But just to test it out, make sure it says the right thing. I want sales and finance. I'm going to attend the party. I like cake and I like pizza, and I'm super excited. And I'm going to submit it. Oh, it won't let me submit because I'm in the preview mode. Okay, so this is the new thing with forms. You also need to publish your form before it goes live. So this was not true, I don't even know, half a year ago. The concept of publishing didn't matter. But now you have to go in, make sure you click publish. And now you'll see up here that it's published, and that's when you can get the link. So I'm going to get the short link, I'm going to copy it, and I'm going to open it up here. All right, so now I can go in and put my garbage answers in, but just to test it all, so we'll do finance and engineering this time. Yes, I'm going to be there. I'll have cake and I'll have a hot dog, and I'm super excited. And now I can submit it. And now when I go back to, let's see, we'll get rid of that one. So this is my back end, and I can tell because I see questions, response, and settings, right? And I can go see the response. So I got my garbage in there, which is fine. And I can see what we have from each thing. And I will be attending, and I like cake, right? So as more people come in, this will make more sense. But again, as we said earlier, we want to also maybe make a Google Sheets. So I'm going to do that. And so now I have all this information here. And that way I count up very easily. You could get that information from the other view as well, but like, how many pieces of cake do you need to have, or whatever information you need from this. Any questions about that? That was a very fast way of seeing how you make a basic form. When we said earlier that we made it into a self-scoring quiz, that's done over here under settings. Up here it says make this a quiz. And I'm going to turn that off actually. So if I go look at a question right now, right, this question, this is what it looks like when it's not a quiz. If I go into settings and I make it a quiz and I come back to the question, I get an answer key now. So I can, if I click on answer key, this is where you get to say what the correct answer is, which for name, we don't have one, right? So that's actually a bad example. So I'm going to click done on that one. But if we come down here and we say here, right? The correct answer, so first of all, I get to choose which one's the correct answer. The correct answer is yes, I will be attending the party. And I get to say, give feedback. So when someone gives an incorrect answer, you really should come to the party.
Did you call my name?
Can you wear a shirt?
Did you call my name?
I did not. Can you fucking wear a shirt? Okay, remember this. Do not.
There we go. And if I wanted to, I could also have, so that's the incorrect answer. If they give the correct answer, often, yay! So glad you will be there. This is a bad example. As far as really what a quiz would say, but you get the sense, right? Okay, now we click save. And I can change how many points it's worth. Notice with the self-scoring quiz, it has to have an answer that we can say is the right answer, right? So a paragraph would be, you would have to go in and score yourself. First name, email address, it can't tell if those are the right answers or not. You could have a single question, but then they'd have to say exactly what you say the answer is. So if you said, who was the first president of the United States, and they wrote Washington, and you'd given the answers George Washington, then Google Forms will mark it wrong. So you have to be as precise as possible. So generally, single line answers are not good ones to put in a self-scoring quiz. Generally, you want it to be one where there is, you can have multiple answers that are correct, but using a check boxes or yeah, the checkbox version is what you want to do, because then you're marking that A is the right answer, regardless of whether someone said George Washington or Washington. Any questions? So I know we've used Google Forms for registration forms for conferences. We've used it to do surveys, to find out from programs or from staff what they are doing or how many people they're teaching or whatever. Are there other ways you can imagine using forms? Or you have used forms?
You can check in with students on maybe review something they taught or get interests, like what do you topics they want to learn, or like the case managers, like give me things you need us to help you find or get or something.
Excellent examples, Edwina. That would be a really great survey when the student is first coming in. You could have all the registration questions that you need to fill out on an ISRF form or something as part of a Google form that people could take. Again, most of them are going to be doing it on a small screen, so you want to be aware of that, but it works really well that way. And all those kinds of questions are very common and useful ways to get data from people. All right, so those are our Google Forms. As usual, we're running out of time. So now we're going to run quickly over and look at some stuff in our Google Sheets. So you could gather a lot of data from your Google Sheets. You could even do attendance through a Google form and have it come into a Google Sheet. So we're going to look at an example of using Google Sheets for attendance. So we have this document in our folder. Imagine this is our class of students, and I have all their hours, and I want to know who is ready to take a test, right? So you know in your program, you probably have a rule about how many hours after which someone can be post-tested. So in Excel, how would I add up all of these hours? If you know Excel or Sheets, what would be the way to add all that up?
Sum in them.
Say that
You
again.
could just,
Sum or adding.
So I could type the word
Yeah.
sum here, right? Would you do
Mhm.
equal sum?
equal sign,
Yeah,
select the
equal
entire
sum, and
section.
then
That's
And
it.
select,
then select all of these guys, and it will put it in there, and then I'm going to hit enter.
Mm-hmm.
And what they, again, Google's trying to help us, so they're guessing we might want to do the same thing for all of these guys, and I'm like, sure.
Yes.
If it hadn't done that, we could have taken that first example and dragged it
And then
down
down.
using that little cross. So there are two different things in Excel or in Sheets where I can drag something or I can move something. So when I'm in here, I can drag this down or I can look for that little hand and that tells me I can move it. So if I need to move my cells around, I can do that. Okay, so we have a bunch of different answers here. And imagine this was a lot longer. So we had like 40 people here. And I just wanted to see all the people that had at least 40 hours of attendance. Does anyone here have a suggestion for how I could get this to do that for me? So this is what we call conditional formatting. And it's really easy in Excel, in Sheets, once you know that it exists. So we have all of these numbers here. We're going to go up here. We have File, Edit. A lot of these are the same tabs you'll see in all the different tools. But in the one for Excel and for Sheets, we have more about data, right? So I said it was formatting. So I'm going to look under Format. And here we have conditional formatting. So I'm going to click on that. And over here, I have to tell it what the rules are. So the format the cells if. This is the first question. So I want the cell to be formatted if the answer, if the number in there is equal to.
It's more than.
Yeah, you could go either way. I'm going to go with equal to or greater than because I want the ones that are 40 or more, right? So greater than or equal to, and I'm going to say 40. And I'm going to change the color to red. And I'm going to click done. So I know these two students are ready for testing. Once I've put this in here, though, if I came in here and I added 20, the formatting will continue to work for everything as I edit it. So this list will just always be a really good list for me to look at. So that's conditional formatting. You can actually have it be a range of colors. So if people are coming up on like, if they have more than 30, it would be a lighter red or, so there's a variety of things you can do that. And that's all under format, conditional formatting. So you can add another rule. You can have a color scale, as I mentioned, right? There's a variety of things you can do. So this way you can, now, I'm just telling you this and we're running out of time, so we're not going to do too much with it, but you now know the phrase conditional formatting and you can Google it for your specific purpose and you'll find lots and lots of videos that will tell you exactly how to do whatever it is you want to do the conditional formatting for. But it's there and it's under format. Now there are a lot of other cool things under formatting, right? Like alternating colors to make this a little easier to read. So say I wanted this this to be alternating colors. I could do that under formatting, right? It had that down here, but I actually can do it up here. I think it's under, yes, you can do alternating colors here. And that just makes it a little easier to follow the list over. And you can change it to whatever set of colors you want it to be. So there's a variety of formatting that I think can make sheets a little easier to interact with. So in this sheet, we have 3 tabs at the bottom. This was an attendance arranged by hours. Once I made that, Sheets asked me if I wanted to turn it into a table. And we talked earlier about the table giving you the ability to search very quickly or resort based on any of these headers. So if I wanted to make this list alphabetical, I could come over to this little arrow and then I could say sort A to Z. And it's sorting all of this data. But now I have this sorted by the student name. Another thing that can happen sometimes, let's go back over here, is that you have both names together and you want to divide that content into 2 different columns. So I'm going to add another column in here. And then I'm going to highlight these guys. And I'm going to, let's see if I remember how to do this while I'm looking at it here. I feel like it was, oh, I'm not going to remember. I had a great way that you can, maybe one of you remembers how to do this or knows how to do this, where you can actually divide the data. I'll find it and I'll make a little video on how you do it. But anyway, it was something that I had to do a lot, where I had to take, I wanted poly and I wanted cotton in 2 separate columns because I want to be able to sort by last name, not just by first name. So I will send you all a little bit. I'll include in our slides a video on how to do that. The last one we have here is checkboxes. So say you weren't collecting exactly how many hours someone was in the class, but you just wanted to show that they were there or not. So you can put in, you just go into insert, and you could add checkboxes there. They're right there. And then you can just put them in every column. And then to count whether there's a checkbox or not, this is the formula. So we're going to do equals, and then we want to type count if. Here, let me do it this way. I'm going to hit enter. So now the true is check. So if there's a checkbox there, it's going to count it up to 1. If there are 2 checkboxes here, oh, because I haven't drug it down yet. There we go. All right. So that will automatically mean that the checkboxes are counting at the end of that row. So you will have this sheet, and this is just one of the cool things you can do. Again, how did I learn? Google. I Googled it and I got some cool videos that showed me how to do this. Okay, so we're running out of time. I'm going to give you the evaluation link in the chat. Let me get that for you. Okay, so the evaluation link is in the chat. We really appreciate that you do the evaluations. Our funder looks at those, we look at them, so it's really important that you do them. So while you're getting ready to do that, I'm going to go back to our slides. And so you'll see in here a lot of these, everything that I did is sort of broken out into pieces. So one more tip that I learned today, because I have a spreadsheet that is very, very long. So I have maybe 180 rows. And whenever I open it, I start at the top and I always have to scroll all the way down. So what I learned today is if you take the link to, so this is the link to my own spreadsheet that I have. This is the share link. So if I wanted to share it with you, this is the share link. So they look different. So if I'm looking at the link that I have when I'm looking at one of my spreadsheets, so this is my spreadsheet. If I look at the link up here, it has this GID stuff in it, right? The GID stuff. So if I put into the GID stuff a cell name, like the letter, the column, and the row information. When I go to this spreadsheet now, it's going to scroll down to 183. So again, I'm not sure if it's useful. It's useful for me for this particular situation where I have this like endlessly adding on spreadsheet. And so every now and then I could just change whatever that cell address is and have the sheets open automatically to where I can put in my next bits of data. So that might not be anything that's useful to you, but I wanted to show it because I had a need. I was frustrated. I was opening up my sheets, scrolling down every time to 183rd row, and I was like, there has to be a way that I can,
there for a long time.
yeah,
It
bookmark it
collects
or something.
insects. They follow it, they smell it. Then we get the fruit flies.
If I could bookmark it, that would make me happy. So that's what I learned today. But I had to come up with a way to describe my problem and ask for how can I do this? And actually AI was the one that answered this particular question. All right, any questions? Lots of questions, confusion? Are you feeling a little bit interested, comfortable trying out any of these things, both sheets and forms? Yes? Something new, one new thing that you're going to try out? I don't know if you're the person in your group who uses spreadsheets, but I have a couple of friends and we are the spreadsheet people. So it's like, what are we having for our Christmas dinner? Let's make a spreadsheet. Oh yeah, yeah. So you might not be that person, but that's okay. But do see that there are purposes the spreadsheet can really help us with our data. That this is an example of what that conditional formatting can look like if you do use the pulsating colors that change based on how close you're getting to certain things. We didn't even look at sorting because now you can sort so easily using the table, but it's just like Excel in the sorting mode. This is a link to a bunch of formulas. There's a lot of formulas. So one of the differences I would say between Excel and Sheets is that Excel makes some things very near the surface. So if I wanted to add something up, there's a symbol in we call this both a toolbar, but it can also be called a ribbon. So in this ribbon, we have this little symbol over here, which tells us all the functions. In Excel, they have a symbol exactly just for making a sum. So they make it very easy. They guess that's the thing that most people want to do. Here, you have to click on this and then choose sum. But here are lots of the variety of functions that you can use. So in the slides, we have a link out and you can see a whole document with all the functions there, but that can also give you some ideas of things you can do. There is another quiz in here if you guys want to take it. I'll look at the answers later, but it really takes you through some of the things we talked about today. This is the information about our session today. And then at the end of the slides, there are a lot of resources. So we have applied digital skill lessons explicitly on Google Sheets and Google Forms. We have helpful key strokes that you might use, like the Control Z, Control V, and Control X. You probably do Control C for copy and Control V for paste. These are my next three favorites, but you might have other favorites that you like. And this is about the QR codes. So I was telling you today about Chrome, but actually Safari and Edge also have the ability to make QR codes right in them. So you can see those instructions right there. And then here are lots of ideas for how you can use forms and sheets in your work and general resources. And that's it. So I'm going to be sending you a email, which will have a link to our folder today, which will include our slides. I'm also going to post the recording on our YouTube and create a blog post. I'll share that with you as well. The blog is linked to here. So you can go back and look at past sessions. They're sorted by topic. And I hope you all have a really, so I'll send that to you today. I hope you all have a wonderful holiday season, and I look forward to seeing you in January of 2026. So
Sorry, question.
yes, go
So
ahead.
sorry. Question. You're sending it how?
I'm going to
Link?
email you all. So the email
Okay.
addresses I had to invite you to the session today, I will email that group with all that information.
Thank you so much.
You're so
Thank
welcome.
you so much.
You're absolutely
Very,
welcome.
very interesting. I learned a lot.
Okay.
Very interesting. Same.
Yeah, it's always a little
Thank
too
you.
much. It's a fire hose, but hopefully you got a little bit that you can just hold on to, and then you can try that out.
Thank you. Happy holidays,
Yes.
everyone.
Happy
Thank you.
holidays.
Bye.
Take care.
Okay.
And see
Happy
you.
holidays.
Thanks so much.
Happy holiday to you too.
Take care.
Bye-bye.